got the whole crew together as we cover Ohio State
with our instant analysis from Ohio State.
There's something that doesn't feel right.
Unbelievable effort from him today.
Is E.J. Liddell going to crack the first team All Big Ten?
I think he can be the guy. I'm not trying to start a quarterback controversy.
He seems to have the durability. He certainly has the toughness. This is the question on a lot of people's minds here. Welcome to Buckeye Breakdown.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back on Buckeye Breakdown. Alongside Andrew Lind, I'm Brendan Gulick, the Ohio State Buckeye basketball team getting ready for a nice non-conference game here tonight against, frankly, a pretty good Towson team. We're going to talk about C.J. Stroud for a moment. C.J. had a chance to address the media today for the first time since the season ended. Obviously, when he spoke with us up in Ann Arbor, Andrew, it was a tough day. It was a tough ending of the season. Good news, CJ sounds and feels a lot healthier. Unfortunately, that's too little too late. And I think he said, essentially, look, nobody really cares. You don't feel good. And that the team was sick. You know, that's not really a good excuse. You got to go out and play better. And I think he did a pretty good job of owning those kinds of things today. But the reason for the press conference was far more celebratory than that. CJ is going to be in New York City for what he says is the first time in his life. The California kid has never been to the Big Apple. And he's going to go there as the absolute star of the show, one of 4 Heisman Trophy finalists that will be recognized, among which one will win the Heisman Trophy this weekend. What were your major takeaways from his thoughts this morning?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, going into that, you're reflective a lot of what happened at Michigan. And, you know, you don't want to really make excuses, and I don't think that he was really trying to do that, though. You know, I have seen some members of the Michigan media kind of twist what he said a little bit and you know, make it seem like he was making an excuse. But he said, you know, I don't want to make an excuse. I'm not trying to. We were sick. You know, we weren't at our best. But at the end of the day, you know, like he said, they lost the game, and there's nothing that you can really do about that. So, you know, it's kind of one of those things, like it's great that he's going to the Heisman ceremony, but at the same time, it's very, very much like the Rose Bowl in that respect, where, you know, it's a disappointing end to what was once a once promising season.
And look, I don't want to take anything away from him. He was a redshirt freshman that had to win the job in what was a pretty darn good quarterback battle between him and Kyle McCord. Jack Miller certainly competed as part of that battle, but kind of, you know, it certainly felt like CJ and Kyle distanced themselves a little bit. And the fact that Kyle had played so well in camp, a good reason why CJ wasn't named the starting quarterback until fairly close to the end of training camp. He spoke very highly of Kyle McCord this afternoon, and frankly spoke pretty highly of Jack Miller and Quinn Ewers, who are no longer part of that quarterback room. I think it continues to talk to the the character that CJ has. He is an incredibly humble, almost honestly to me, almost overly humble, right? For what he has accomplished, it almost feels like he is robotic in his humility and his but I appreciate it, because that's clearly who he is. He's been like that since we met him on campus, and he's never changed. So good on him for sticking to his guns and for, you know, staying true to himself despite the spotlight.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, he begins every single press conference with giving glory to God, which, you know, that if you know CJ, that's exactly why he's in this position. So, you know, it's really great to see. And, you know, a lot of kids can let that, you know, go straight to their head that they're, you know, leading the country and you know, all these statistical categories and going to the Heisman ceremony and all that. But like I said, you know, he just gives the glory away, and it's really great to see. And then, you know, the fact that you mentioned like Quinn and Jack, and you know, he even mentioned today that he's going to continue to root for them, continue to watch them, and hopes that they succeed, because over the last, you know, 4 months with Quinn and over the last year and a half with Jack, like, he got to be a real brother to them. So, you know, it's really great to see.
He also talked about his favorite guys to throw the ball to: Jackson Smith and Jigba, Garrett Wilson, and Chris Olave, in no particular order. All 3 of them have had terrific seasons. And he was basically asked, hey, if you had any conversations with any of those guys about whether or not they're going to play or skip the bowl game and prepare for an NFL future, he essentially said, I'm going to tell them to do what they think is best for them. But I think deep down inside, sure, of course, you want to go out and play with them again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's going to, you know, put them in a position to win the game, and then just, you know, him to have a great game himself. So he'd love to have them, but at the same time, he, you know, if he was in that same situation, you know, if he was debating on whether or not he was going to go to the NFL or those kind of things, those would be conversations that he would be having with his, you know, offensive teammates and his coaches. And, you know, just kind of one of those things that it's just the situation altogether. And, he's going to make the best of it regardless of whether he has to. He even mentioned Sam Wiglusz today. Like, if he has to throw to him in the Rose Bowl, which, I mean, if that happens, I'm not picking Ohio State to win. But, it's one of those things. It's just you deal with the circumstances you're given.
Well, look, Julian Fleming, Emeka Egbuka, Marvin Harrison Jr., they've even Jaden Ballard. I mean, they've got plenty of scholarship receivers on this roster that all have extremely high ceilings. So, if Chris and or Garrett decide, hey, probably in my best interest not to play, I still like Ohio State's chances in the game. But obviously, if you're missing guys of that caliber, it changes things a little bit. My deep down inside gut feeling is that they're going to play. Mm-hmm. It's just a gut feeling. We'll see. I think they'd like to try to end with a Rose Bowl win.
Yeah, and we had talked about it. I believe it was in this room when we had last talked about it. But it's kind of one of those things when you can have that opportunity to end your career on a positive note after what happened at Michigan, and then on top of that, Chris is only 70 yards away from 1,000 yards. So I think that he would really like to get in that air and with the rest of his teammates, Garrett and Jackson, to both be over 1,000 yards as well. They can always look back on it and say, like, hey, we were the first Big Ten team ever to have 3 1,000-yard receivers. So, I think that's really important to them as well.
All right. What do you think? Is he going to win?
Not after what Bryce Young did against Georgia. I just, I don't think that's possible. He kind of had one of those Heisman moments, if you will. I don't think it was like any one particular play, but you beat the number one team in the country that everybody thought was impossible to beat all year, and then you put that performance together. Like, I don't think that. I could see him coming in second. I mean, it'll be either him or I think Aiden Hutchinson, but I think you have to just take it for what it's worth. Like, you're there, make it back next year and win it. So
it's an amazing season for CJ. If you'd asked me that question 2.5 weeks ago, I would have said I certainly think he is the favorite.
Yeah.
I realized the betting odds flipped basically around that time. He certainly wasn't the reason that the Michigan game ended the way it did. That's not on CJ's shoulders whatsoever. And he's had an unbelievable campaign. But I do think that when Bryce Young marched Alabama, despite the fact the offense was awful almost all game against Auburn, the way he marched that team back in that game, and then the way that he, frankly kind of demolished Georgia's defense last weekend. Personally, I'd be surprised if Bryce Young doesn't win, but you never know. We'll have to see how people vote, and perhaps CJ will have a surprise victory. It sure would be great.
I'd say it's just hard though, seeing him be left off like the Maxwell Award finalists and those kind of things. Like, usually those kind of things go hand in hand. So, tomorrow night is the College Football Award show on ESPN, and I think that'll kind of give us a good idea of where the voting is going to go for the Heisman as well.
Well, we'll keep our eye on it for sure. For Andrew Lind, I'm Brendan Gulick. Those are just some quick thoughts on C.J. Stroud's conversation today with the media as he gets ready to leave for New York this weekend, Saturday night. And I believe the Heisman Trophy presentation will be live on ESPN Saturday evening, so we will certainly cover it, whether or not CJ finds his way into the winner's circle on Saturday. In the meantime, the Buckeyes with a big basketball game coming up this evening against Towson. Obviously, Ohio State Hoops is playing well right now, middle of last week with a huge victory over the Duke Blue Devils, and followed it up with a pretty nice performance on the road at a tough place where they have struggled recently. In recent years anyways, at Penn State, a nice road win for the Buckeyes this weekend. So we got a lot of coverage coming the rest of the night. If you're interested in Ohio State hoops, it's on BuckeyesNow.com. We've also got stuff on our social media channels, Buckeyes Now on SI. See you soon. Ohio State's quarterback C.J. Stroud heading to the Heisman Trophy presentation here this coming weekend.